So I'd like to speak to you about the prodigal son. Right, it's a tale, it's a story that was told. So whether it's true or not, that really does not matter. I just believe that there are some valuable lessons that could be learned from this story on your transformation journey, on your journey to enlightenment, on your seeking. I believe there's great lessons in this story. So for those who do not know the story, I'm going to give it to you. So the story is about a man who had two sons. He loved them dearly, and he loved having his sons in his presence. It happened one day that the younger son went to his father and he said, "Father, may I have a portion of my inheritance so that I can depart from your presence and be on my own?" Though saddened in his heart, the father looked at the son and he decided that he was going to grant him his wishes, his desires, and indeed he gave him a portion of his inheritance. And the son departed on his way he went. So the tale goes that as the son went, he ended up at a land far away. And in that land in the beginning, because he had a great portion of the inheritance, meaning a lot of money with him, life was good. Right, but what happened is that the son wasted the money. He decided to waste the money on many things. Right, and eventually the money was gone. And away from home and away from the father, the son found himself broke. Right, he found himself broke and he did not know what to do. It is said that the son went around looking for jobs. And a man hired the son and gave him an opportunity, but he said, "Your job will be to feed the swine or the pigs, right? And your wages would be to eat whatever you feed them. That is your job. At least you'll have something to eat, but you eat whatever you feed the pigs." The son was not very happy about this, and he remembered the days when he was in the presence of the father. And he said to himself, "Man, when I was with my father, I never lacked anything. Everything was catered for. I never worried. I never found myself starving, not knowing what I shall eat or where I shall sleep." Right, so the son decided in his head that, look, I have done something extraordinary. Therefore, I will go back to my father and apologize and say, "Father, I have sinned against you. Therefore, I pray that you take me back, but not as your son, as one of your servants, that I may work for you, so long as you give me something to eat and a place to sleep." So he decided this in his heart, and on his way back home he went, and he traveled for a very long time. Eventually he got closer to home, and when he was approaching home, the father saw him. Obviously with a lot of excitement, because he had missed his son, he ran to him and he caught him and he embraced him and he kissed him all over, and he was so happy that the son was back. And he instructed his servants that they must slaughter a lamb so that there'd be a great feast to celebrate the return of his lost son. The older brother, looking at the father, was very saddened in his heart, and he went to the father and he said, "Father, Lo, have I been with you in your presence, doing as you instruct me to. Never have I disappointed, never have I ever taken any of your money and went to squander it and to waste it with my friends. But you've never even given me a small lamb for me to celebrate and enjoy with my friends. But this, your son, disrespected you, took your money, went away, wasted it, and now that he comes back, you throw a big feast to celebrate his return. What is it about him that you do not see in me that I do not get to enjoy what he is currently enjoying? And the father, hearing this, looked at the older son and said to him, Son, he pointed around. He said, all this time, all that I have as your father belongs to you too. All of it belongs to you too. In that moment, it hit the older son that, man, I did not realize all this, and he was ashamed of his conduct, right? But he went away joyfully, knowing that everything that belonged to the father belonged to him. So how is this tale relevant to your journey of transformation? If you understand, if you watch the video where we discussed the analogy of the ocean and the drop in the ocean, I'll just touch on that again to explain the relevance. And in this story, that the ocean is contained within the drop. The drop, if you take the drop out of the ocean and you lift it up and you look at the drop, the whole ocean is contained within the drop, right? But the drop on its own cannot do what the entire ocean can do. The drop in my hand cannot cause a tsunami. The drop in my hand cannot drown big ships. The drop in my hand cannot cause storms. But if the drop in my hand desires to do greater things, to cause storms and cause tsunamis and drown ships and do all those things, it has to fall back into the ocean. Because when it falls back into the ocean, it becomes one with the ocean. And all of a sudden, the power that is available to the ocean is now available to the drop, because the drop has become one with the ocean. So if you look at the story of the prodigal son, when the son was in the presence of his father, you may liken the father to the ocean in this instance. That in the presence of the father, the son had everything he needed. He never lacked. It was provided for. That is why he never even noticed that he lacked anything. But when the son departed from the presence of the father to be on his own, he was like the drop that I have on my hand, separated from the ocean. That all of a sudden, that which was of the father is no longer accessible to him, because he has separated himself from the father. So it is with us. When we look at ourselves as individuals, when we look at ourselves as the flesh, we are like the prodigal son that has departed from the presence of the father. But if we understand who we are in relation to the all, when we transform and look at ourselves in a spiritual sense, when we realize that we are part of the oneness, then in that moment we are aware of the powers and the access to all the greatness that is available. And it is in those instances where we can now believe that all things are possible, because when we transform from the flesh into the spirit, when we stop looking at ourselves as the flesh, therefore we realize that all the limits that we had set for the flesh are broken, because we are not the flesh, but we are the spirit. We are the all. We are the oneness that is the all. Therefore, everything that is available to the oneness is available to us. So the message with this is that you need to transform yourself. You need to stop looking at yourself as the flesh that you see, because that is not who you are. The flesh is just a vehicle with which you have chosen to maneuver around earth, but the flesh is not who you are. Therefore, transform yourself and stop looking at yourself as the flesh. Like the prodigal son, move away from the far land and return to the presence of the Father. Transform yourself from the isolation of the flesh and look at yourself as spirit, as the oneness, as the consciousness that is the all that is available. Therefore, the powers that are available to the all will then be accessible and available to you too. It is in that instance that you understand that there are no limits. The only limits that are there are the limits that you set in your mind when you decide to look at yourself and live life as though you are the flesh. So just like the prodigal son, recognize this and return to the presence of the Father. Instead of you being the drop that is in the hand, fall back into the ocean, and all of a sudden the power that is in the ocean, the power in the presence of the Father, the power in the all, in the oneness, will be accessible to you.